Welcome. Today we're doing a deep dive into Luke chapter 21. It's a really dense chapter full of contrasts, some difficult prophecies, and advice that still resonates.
It really does. And it starts right away, doesn't it? With Jesus at the temple, watching people at the treasury.
Yeah, he's observing the donations, and
Yeah.
you've got the wealthy, putting in quite large sums, obviously, from their abundance.
But then he singles someone out, a poor widow. And she gives just 2 tiny copper coins, barely anything, you'd think.
Right, and yet his comment just completely flips that perception. He doesn't just notice her. He says, I tell you the truth, this poor widow has put in more than all the others.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, that's the whole point he's making, isn't it? It's not about the amount. The text specifically says the rich gave out of their wealth. They had plenty left.
Okay.
The widow, though, she gave out of her poverty. And Luke adds that key detail, all she had to live on. So generosity isn't measured by quantity in this view, but by the sacrifice involved. What did it cost the giver relative to what they had? It's about the heart, putting everything forward.
It really challenges you, doesn't it, to think about our own giving. Is it just from the extra, the surplus, or does it actually represent a real cost to us?
Exactly. What does true generosity look like for you?
And that theme of sort of valuing things differently carries right on, because then the disciples start talking about the temple.
Yeah, they're impressed. You can picture it. Look at these beautiful stones. Look at all the gifts dedicated here. It was magnificent, a symbol of permanence, of God's presence.
A real source of pride and security, you'd imagine.
For sure. And then Jesus just shatters that image. Looking right at it, he says, as for what you see here, the time will come when not one stone will be left on another. Every one of them will be thrown down.
Just like that. Total destruction of the most important building in their world.
You can understand their reaction. Their next question is immediate. Teacher, when? When will this happen? And what will be the sign? How will we know it's about to take place?
They want the warning signs, the schedule.
Makes sense. But his first response isn't a date, it's a warning. Watch out that you are not deceived.
Deception first, before anything else.
That's the first danger he flags. People coming in his name, claiming to be him, or saying, the time is near, and his instruction is blunt. Do not follow them.
So be wary of false claims, false messiahs, false urgency. That's the initial landscape.
That's the first hurdle. Then he talks about broader signs that have to happen first, but, and this is crucial, he says, the end will not come right away.
Okay, so these are precursors, not the final event itself. What are they?
Things like hearing of wars and revolutions. But he tells them, don't be frightened by that.
Easier said than done, probably.
Probably. Then, nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, big conflicts. Also, great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places. Natural disasters, disease outbreaks.
Standard terrible stuff in a way.
And fearful events and great signs from heaven. So yes, global upheaval, cosmic signs, things that cause fear. But he's framing them as part of the run-up, not the immediate conclusion.
It's almost like he's saying, the world's going to be chaotic, expect that, but don't immediately jump to conclusions about the very end.
That seems to be the sense. These are signs of a world in distress, but not the final whistle. And then, interestingly, he pivots. He says, before all this, meaning before all those big global signs fully play out.
Something more personal happens to his followers.
Exactly. He tells them directly, they will lay hands on you and persecute you.
And he gets specific about what that looks like.
Very specific. Being delivered to synagogues and prisons, dragged before kings and governors, and it's explicit why, on account of my name. Their loyalty to him is the cause.
Facing religious and political authorities, imprisonment. It sounds terrifying. But then he says something unexpected about the outcome of all this suffering.
He does. He says this persecution will result in your being witnesses to them.
So the very act of being persecuted becomes their chance to testify to the powerful people persecuting them.
Yes. Their suffering creates their platform. It's a strange kind of opportunity.
And how should they prepare for these moments? Standing before kings and governors. He gets instructions on that too, right?
He does, and it's counterintuitive. He says, essentially, don't pre-plan your defense speech. Make up your mind not to worry beforehand how you will defend yourselves.
Don't worry about it. When you're on trial.
Because he promises, I will give you words and wisdom that none of your adversaries will be able to resist or contradict. It's about relying on divine help in that critical moment, not just human cleverness.
That's a significant promise of support. But the next part, it gets even darker. It shows just how deep the betrayal will run.
Yeah, he doesn't sugarcoat it. He warns they'll be betrayed even by parents, brothers, relatives, and friends. The lines of conflict will cut right through families.
That's incredibly harsh. Division within the closest circles.
And for some, it goes further. Some will actually be put to death.
And then the really stark summary. All men will hate you because of me. Universal hatred.
It's the potential cost laid bare. And right after mentioning death and being hated by everyone, you get this statement that seems, well, contradictory on the surface.
You mean, but not a hair of your head will perish.
Exactly that. How do you square that? Some are put to death, yet not a hair will perish.
It forces you to think about what perish really means in this context, doesn't it? Is it just about physical survival or something deeper?
It suggests perhaps a kind of ultimate security, maybe spiritual preservation that transcends physical death. You have the harsh reality of earthly suffering side by side with a promise of ultimate safety. It's complex.
Holding both those things at once.
Yeah.
And in the face of all that betrayal, hatred, potential death, what's the core instruction?
It comes down to one word, really: endurance. By standing firm, you will gain life. Persevere through it all. That's the key.
Okay. So after those very personal trials, the focus shifts back to more public signs, but this time very localized. Jerusalem.
Yes, a very specific observable sign. When you see Jerusalem being surrounded by armies, you will know that its desolation is near. This isn't vague. It's about a military siege.
And the instruction for that moment is incredibly urgent.
Absolutely. Flee immediately. Let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let those in the city get out. And let those in the country not enter the city. No hesitation. Get out.
Why such urgency? What does this event represent?
The text frames it as judgment. For this is the time of punishment and fulfillment of all that has been written. It's seen as a specific moment of divine reckoning tied to prophecy.
And again, the human cost isn't glossed over.
No, it's highlighted. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. It acknowledges the intense suffering involved.
And the outcome for the city and its people.
It's grim, people falling by the sword, taken as prisoners to all the nations. And this key phrase: Jerusalem will be trampled on by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled.
Times of the Gentiles. What does that generally refer to?
It's usually understood as a period where non-Jewish nations hold sway or dominance over Jerusalem, fulfilling certain prophetic timelines.
Okay, so after Jerusalem's fate, the perspective zooms out again, this time to the cosmos. Huge signs preceding a major event.
Right. This is the build-up to the appearance of the Son of Man. The signs are now celestial. Signs in the sun, moon, and stars.
And the reaction on Earth sounds like pure chaos and fear.
Utter terror. Nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. It paints a picture of natural forces completely out of control.
And people's reaction.
Men will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Universal dread, triggered by the very fabric of the cosmos seeming to unravel.
So in the middle of that scene, worldwide panic, fainting from fear, what are Jesus' followers supposed to do?
This is the crucial contrast. Right after describing the terror, the text says, "At that time they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory," and their instruction. When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near.
Stand up and look up while everyone else is collapsing in fear. That's quite a posture.
It's a call to hope and confident expectation, precisely when things look bleakest. Their perspective is meant to be entirely different.
Okay, let's talk about timing. Use an analogy, a parable, right?
The fig tree, and other trees too.
Simple enough. When the leaves come out, you know summer's coming.
And the application is just as direct. Even so, when you see these things happening, all the signs they've just discussed, you know that the kingdom of God is near. The signs are indicators. Read them.
Then we get that statement about this generation, which has caused a lot of discussion.
Yes. I tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Now, based just on this chapter, what this generation refers to isn't definitively spelled out beyond linking it to witnessing these things.
So it could mean the people listening then who might seize some events like Jerusalem's fall, or maybe a future generation that sees the whole cluster of signs.
Both are potential readings just from this text. The emphasis seems to be that the generation seeing the signs is the one that knows the end is near. The signs are the key marker for that generation.
Regardless of the debates around generation, the certainty of his words is stressed incredibly strongly.
Absolutely. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. It anchors everything he's predicting in something more permanent than creation itself. Ultimate authority.
And flowing right out of all this prophecy and instruction comes a really practical warning about, well, how to live day to day.
It's about the state of the heart. Be careful, or your hearts will be weighed down with dissipation, drunkenness, and the anxieties of life.
Dissipation, like carousing,
Mm-hmm.
partying too much.
Yeah, worldly indulgence, getting caught up in excess, but also drunkenness, and significantly just the everyday anxieties of life. Worries, stresses.
The things that can easily consume us.
Mm.
And the danger is.
And that day will close on you unexpectedly, like a trap. If your heart is weighed down, distracted, you won't be ready. You'll be caught off guard.
So it's not just about watching world events. It's about inner vigilance against even normal life pressures that can dull your spiritual awareness.
Precisely. And this isn't a warning for a small group. He says it will come upon all those who live on the face of the whole earth. It's universal.
So what's the antidote? What's the final command for how to live in readiness to avoid that trap?
It's really twofold. Be always on the watch and pray.
Yeah.
Watchfulness, staying alert, spiritually awake, and prayer, active reliance on God.
For what specific outcome?
That you may be able to escape all that is about to happen, and that you may be able to stand before the Son of Man. Prayer is presented as the means to navigate the dangers and be ready for his return.
The chapter then closes with just a quick snapshot of Jesus' routine at this time.
A little glimpse into his rhythm. Each day Jesus was teaching at the temple, public ministry, and each evening he went out to spend the night on the hill called the Mount of Olives. Private withdrawal, likely for prayer.
Teaching and retreating. A pattern.
And the people's response is noted too. All the people came early in the morning to hear him at the temple, eager to listen right up until the end of his public teaching.
So, quite a journey through Luke 21. We started with that widow's offering redefining generosity, moved through these intense prophecies about destruction, global chaos, persecution.
And the call for endurance, for watching, for prayer, despite all the fear and turmoil described.
It definitely confronts you with those anxieties of life he mentioned. They haven't gone away, have they? They can still weigh us down today.
No, there are perennial human struggles.
Which leaves us with a final thought, perhaps. If this chapter is pushing towards constant watchfulness, a state of readiness, not just for some far-off apocalypse maybe, but for living now with focus and meaning, what could you actually do today practically to cultivate that? To be prepared in your heart and mind, regardless of what headlines or personal anxieties might come tomorrow. Something to really mull over.